Hey, doctors, are you the bomb or are you just bombing out? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast brought to you by CATS Consultants and Chiro Health USA. I'm your host, Dr. Michael Perusich. I almost forgot my name.
Yeah.
And I'm joined with my famous, infamous golfing professional co-host, Dr. Troy Fox.
Wow. What an introduction right there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I've been working on that one.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Been working on that one. So you and I were talking before we jumped on here about the fact that you can either be the bomb in practice or you can bomb out. And I think we both agree it's really a choice. It
Oh,
it
yeah.
comes down to how willing are you to become the bomb and do what it takes.
I think you're 100% right about that. And we're going to talk about some patterns that we see with docs in practice, with associate doctors in practice. And it's across the board. It honestly, this hasn't changed in 30 years.
No.
Maybe how we reach patients has changed. Maybe how we educate patients has changed. Marketing concepts have changed. This part has not changed.
No,
And I think there's a root problem, but we'll save that for a little bit later.
I think this is the static in practice.
It
I think
is.
this is the one thing, and there may be more, but if we think about it, but I think this is the one thing that doesn't change no matter whether you own the practice, you're a partner in the practice, you're a solo practice, you're an associate in the practice, a new grad, you've been out 30 years. I don't think it matters. I think this one thing to whether or not you're going to be the bomb or the bomb out is completely static and doesn't change.
Yeah, there are three branches to the tree. And those three branches are, and we'll start with the really great one first. One of the branches is highly successful doc. I'm not going to talk about how we got there, but highly successful doc.
Yep.
Branch number two, you're just hanging on to the branch. You're barely hanging on, maybe with two fingers. And branch number three, you fell out of the tree. And there are patterns that we see with every one of those behaviors. So what do you want to start with? You want to start at the top and work down, or you want to start at the bottom and work up?
Gosh, that's a great question. Let's save the fun stuff for last. Let's start at
Okay.
the bottom. Why do we grab that lower branch and it snaps and we just fall flat on our face? We call that the bomb out in practice.
Yeah.
Troy, I think you'll agree that I think the number one reason is because we're just not willing to do what it takes.
Yeah, it was harder than we thought it was going to be when we
Way
came out
harder.
of school. Yeah, we were in student clinic and we were seeing patients, and maybe we got some patients handed down from another graduate that was leaving. And then we developed some of our own patients, our friends and family came in, and we're like, this is great. And then I get into practice and I'm just going to hang my shingle and I'm going to wait for people to come through the door. And
Oh,
when
right.
when it doesn't happen, all of a sudden we start to panic. You've never been a business person. You got into this to be a doctor, and we get that. We totally get that.
Yeah.
You and I approached it a little bit differently. We sought out, and this is not an advertisement for coaching. Trust me, it's not. But you and I both did seek out coaching before we ever started, because we realized that we needed the business aspect as well as the healthcare aspect,
I
because
knew we
we're going to
couldn't do it
run a
alone.
business. Yeah.
We both knew we could not do it alone. And even though you and I had some life experience before chiropractic,
Mm.
we still knew we couldn't do it on our own because there's too many hats to wear. And that's part of it. Number one, if you've never owned, run, worked in, et cetera, a healthcare clinic, then why reinvent the wheel? Why make all the mistakes when somebody else can teach you, hey, that's a mistake. Don't do that. Do it this way.
You know what? I just figured out why I did that too. Actually, I probably knew this all along, but you know what I did? I analyzed successful doctors.
Yeah.
I was
did too.
lucky to know several really successful docs. And you know what I noticed? They all had the same traits, and we'll talk about those here in a little while. But what I realized from that was I were to not hang on and fall off that branch. In other words, I didn't want to be a failure in practice.
Gosh, no.
I didn't want my business to fail and then me have to try to figure out what to do. That seems like a real nightmare, and it is for some people. I immediately went, okay, what are the greats doing? And some of it was marketing gimmicks and stuff way back when. Some of it was how they approached their practices and their mental attitude. And we had to sift through that and figure out what worked for us. And that got you to the next step. That got you to at least hanging on to the branch at that point. Because
Hanging on.
early in practice, you were not going to be blowing the doors off on day one. I saw one patient on day one.
I love it. So you just made me think of something. Not only did I study successful doctors, I studied the ones that failed too. Did they
Mhm.
fail? Why didn't they do great? Why did they get out of practice so
Right.
early? Why did they spend all that time to go to school and then chose not to be successful? And I want to dive into that just a little bit before we go to the middle branch, but we got to take
Mhm.
a quick little break. So we hear a quick word from our sponsor. We'll be right back.
In today's economy, every dollar counts. Families are facing tough choices, having to reconsider what was once essential to them. But when it comes to healthcare, no one should have to compromise on their well-being because of financial constraints. That's where Chirohealth Health USA steps in, the solution for your practice. We understand the financial pressures families are under, whether they're insured, on Medicare, or paying out of pocket for treatment. By offering discounts on care, you can ensure that your patients can still afford the treatment they need. At Chiropractic Health USA, we're committed to making sure no family has to sacrifice their health due to financial hardship. We'll work with you to create a game plan that keeps your waiting room full and your practice thriving. And here's the best part. Offering affordable care not only benefits your patients, but also positively impacts your bottom line. So why wait? Join Chiropractic Health USA today and join the ranks of the most successful practices. Because when you put your patients first, everyone wins.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We're talking about making the choice to be the bomb or be the bomb out in practice. And Trey, we started with the lower branch. I love your analogy there because it's so descriptive. We're talking about the lower branch where you decide to be the bomb out. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why we bomb out of practice. But as we stated before the break, I think the number one thing is you're just not willing to put the work in. And chiropractic school is hard. It was hard to become a doctor. But I'm going
Yeah.
to tell you right now, I think it's 10 times harder to become a successful doctor once you get out of school and into practice.
And I think it's part of the struggle is that you get out of school. And I think some of it's we're smart individuals. Every one of you that made it through chiropractic school is a smart individual. There's no doubt. There's no way you got through boards and you weren't smart.
Right.
Sometimes we're too smart for our own good. I'll give an analogy. I have a friend of mine that's not the best golfer on the planet. And we went for a lesson one time and he was asking about where should my hands be? Where should my elbows be? And he's moving them around doing all this stuff. And the guy that looked at him was number 2 right behind Hank Haney. And if any of you guys know anything about golf, Hank Haney is a legend. He coached Tiger. This guy is his number 2 right behind him. This guy says to my really smart friend, this guy had a physics degree, super intelligent. He said, have you ever thought sometimes maybe you're just too smart for the game of golf? He overanalyzed everything, but really didn't accept the coaching. He didn't accept what needed to happen. And I think in some cases, what happens, we get paralyzed in practice trying to figure out what we should do by analyzing. And then we never take action while we're sitting there watching our practice die on the vine.
Yeah.
It's,
And
it's
I think side B to that is we just don't accept the idea of coaching enough to want to open our minds to say, hey, maybe somebody else has a better idea because they've done this before.
right.
And so we overanalyze what we think will work and won't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Which sometimes will get you to that next branch where you're just hanging on. You may look at what somebody else did at that point and go, I'm not going to accept too much coaching, but I'm going to look around and I'm smart enough to see what everybody else in my area is doing. I'm just going to mimic it. And that a lot of times will get you to the branch where you're just hanging on and you're making enough to survive in practice, but you're really not going anywhere fast.
I call that friendship coaching. You're calling around and talking to all your friends in practice. What are you doing? What's working? and you try to mimic that. And one thing we don't realize, I think sometimes, is chiropractic, especially, we're such a personal relationship business
Mhm.
that a lot of our success is born out of connecting our personality to like personality people.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that, the only way to do that, I guess you could sit in your office and just hope the right people walk in the door. But I can tell you that doesn't work. Remind me to tell you about the time the lady called me a used car salesman. But the only way to do that, in my opinion, is you have to get out of your office. This is the go the extra mile stuff. You have to get out. You have to inject yourself in the community. You have to go do health talks. I know half of you just passed out, but you have to go out. You have to do health talks. You got to do blood pressure screenings. I taught at the local college for a while, not because I had a yearning to teach, and certainly not because it was paying me much money, but it put me in front of thousands of people every day who got to know me and got to know my personality. And I know you did some of the same stuff, Troy. I joined the country club so I could meet the guys out playing golf. I didn't do it because it had great food. It was great food, but I did it so I could develop relationships. I got involved with the Boys and Girls Club and started going to their auctions. And a couple of years later, I was president for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. But just getting out there and getting to know people. I volunteered at 5K runs. I did whatever I could outside of clinic time to build a practice. And I don't care if you own, work in it, associate in it, it doesn't matter. It works the same. You have to get out.
Yeah, we hear that argument or that objection a lot. Not only sometimes we hear it from docs that own their own clinic. I shouldn't have to get outside my own clinic. Like they should come to me kind of thing. It just doesn't work that way. Sorry. They've got to know you in the community. And once people know you, they trust you. And once you
Yep.
develop the trust, then they'll come in. Now, every once in a while, you're going to get lucky and somebody's going to walk through the door that just moved in from out of town from a great doc. They meet you, you mesh immediately, and they become almost your best friend in practice because they've already found out what chiropractic can do for them. But how about that patient that's never seen a chiropractor? We
Right.
have them. There's a ton of them out there. They don't know you. They're timid about calling. But if you're out there in the community, and I like what you were talking about, it doesn't have to be all health talks and blood pressure screenings.
No.
Those are the struggle bus part of it. Those are the grind. The fun stuff is joining your local country club and playing golf with people. Pickleball's big right now.
Pickleball.
Get
Yeah.
involved in pickleball. Get involved in frisbee golf or disc golf.
Yeah.
If I call it frisbee golf, I'll probably be in trouble with the disc golfers, but I'm not a disc golfer, so I called it frisbee golf. Disc golf. Get involved in your church. Those are things that you
Huge.
can do. And the truth of the matter is, people come to you because they know you, not because you're a subject matter expert.
Right.
That's not where it's at. So it's about being visible in public. That's where people get to that next level. And that's how you get to the branch where you're hanging on. And some people are more successful than that and others just because they have a dynamic personality. But if you put in the work, but you have to put in the work. That's something you and I talked about before, is if you're unwilling to put in the work and you think just because I got a degree in chiropractic and I passed my boards, I should be successful in practice. Man, I wish that were the case. I wish that you were driven by a large medical machine that pushed people your way the second that you got out of school. But
But you're not.
it's not where you're at. So you can wish as much as you want that's going to happen, and it just isn't. So
Yeah.
you
And
have to actually go out there and endear yourself to the public.
you do. And, that middle branch, it's another choice. And while it might pay the bills, it's also, and I'm sorry to say this, and I don't mean to offend anybody, it's the mediocre level. And did you really go become a doctor because you wanted a mediocre practice? I'm going to challenge you, even if you think you did, I'm going to challenge you to say you didn't. You went to school to become a highly successful doctor, and you can. And far too often, I hear docs that are at that mediocre branch or the bomb out branch, and I absolutely hate this comment. Chiropractic doesn't work, or none of those things work in my area. People around here are different. They don't utilize chiropractic. Bull. That's all I've got to say for that. That's a mindset of yours. That's a choice you make. So I practiced in a town where I'll be honest, I won't go into all the details because I don't want to call my town out, but chiropractic was beat up, beat up. You've heard of the Wilkes case? Part of that case started in the town I practiced in. So when I got there, not to belabor the point, but when I got there, the medical doctors and the chiropractors didn't really commune together. In fact, I got looked at funny when I joined the country club because apparently, unbeknownst to me, a few years prior to me joining, chiropractors couldn't belong to the country club. That's how bad it was. In my desire, my choice to become successful, guess what I did? I started chipping away at that and raising the bar for chiropractic and putting chiropractic on mainstream in that town. And after a couple of years, guess what? The medical doctors, their families, their kids, they were all patients of mine. I lived in the same neighborhood, played golf with them. You can overcome these barriers. And I hear doctors, sorry, I'm on a soapbox here. I hear doctors all the time making these excuses. My town's different. There's too many medical doctors here. It's an older population and they just won't come in and pay for services. All of that is, I can debunk all of that. So you have to make the choice that I don't want to be out on the bomb out branch or the mediocre branch. I want to be on the top tier branch and have a highly successful practice.
I want to add a couple of things to that because number one, what you said at the very end is mindset. If you believe that you're not going to be successful, there's plenty of research out there to show
Yep.
you will fulfill that dream of not being successful. If you want to be successful, you have to have a successful mindset, but we're going to the next branch here in a minute and we'll talk about that success mindset. But the other thing I want to add into that too is sometimes you need to be a goldfish. And what I mean by that is this. How smart are goldfish? I've never really analyzed a goldfish heavily, but I think goldfish have a short attention span. They have short memories. And it's kind of like this. What was your name again? You got to forget what happened 2 minutes ago, and you've got to forget what happened in your town. Now, if your town, you say, gosh, my town is really anti-chiropractic, or it's this, it's that.
Don't let it stop you.
You know what? I won't disagree that there are different regions that function differently. I can tell you that the practice that I have now is vastly different than the practice I had previously, especially this is interesting, in the months that are slower, because we all have slower months in practice. I don't care how successful you are, you're going to have some months that are slower. Mine's in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
Mine's during harvest. I'm in a small farming town. And guess what? Am I panicked about the fact that I'm a little bit slower? No, that's a great time for me to strategize. It's a great time for me not to think the sky is falling, but I also have to be a goldfish. I have to forget what happened yesterday and focus on today's patients. I don't belabor day after day. And I also don't look at what I did for the month. What I like to do is look at a continuum. How did I do this year in comparison to last year? Am I up a little bit? If I'm down, I need to change some things, but I'm a goldfish. I'm not going to remember and I'm not going to sit and belabor it every day, but I'm smart enough to analyze it periodically just to give me a roadmap of where I'm going. Because I'm a goldfish and I don't remember where I'm going, I need a roadmap. So the goldfish analogy is great because you just let it roll off. You have to, because we talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
When you get on social media, let's say, okay, gosh, my practice is slow. I'm going to get on social media. I'm going to become a subject matter expert. And I saw a doc the other day give a simple 90-90-90 stretch. Simplest thing on the planet, right? Put your feet up on a chair, bend your hips, bend your knees, put your arms over your head, stretch a little bit. And he just got shredded on social media, shredded.
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, you're going to hurt yourself. Don't do that. Call your medical doctor. Social media is so nasty anymore. You better be a goldfish if you're on social media, because you will quit doing social media if you take that stuff personally.
Yeah, you can't take it personally. And we see a lot of doctors stay on the mediocre or bomb out rung because they get shut down by a patient. Somebody in town says something negative about chiropractic. Who cares? You got to let that stuff roll off your back like water on a duck.
Little secret, it doesn't matter which branch you're on, you get that. It happens to
Correct.
everybody. There isn't any one of us that are gonna just skate through. Those people that are ultra successful don't have a practice that doesn't have any dissenters.
Right.
They're there. And there are gonna be people you can't help, and they blame you because you can't help them. It's the nature of the beast.
And in fact, the docs that are on the top rung, the most successful rung, the bomb branch, if you will, those are the ones that have learned how to battle those things and turn them from a negative and flip them into a positive. I want to talk about that top branch. We need to take a quick break. Here, a word from our sponsors. We're talking about you making the choice, doctors, to either be the bomb in practice or to let yourself bomb out. We'll be right back.
Pat's Chiropractic Consultants, your partner in chiropractic success. We are dedicated with one-on-one guidance to bring you all your practice management needs. Let's supercharge your practice. Give us a call today.
Okay, doctors, we are back. We're talking about the branches of a tree because we have become arborists. Like that. No,
Love it.
seriously, we're talking about making the choice to be successful in practice because that's really what it is, and setting yourself up for success by not allowing yourself to get torn down by the negativity, and especially not allowing your mindset to shift away from being successful because it truly is just a mindset.
It is. And so as we step into the success realm, the first thing we talked about is right from the beginning, and you can start this at any stage in your practice. If you haven't done this up to this point, today's the day.
Yeah. Never
Here's
too
the
late.
day that you start looking at what successful doctors are doing. And rather than being threatened by that or upset by that, because you may have somebody in your town that's killing it, it doesn't mean that you're not going to too.
Sure.
Uh,
Let me
but
explain.
look at those other docs that are doing well. You know what? You would be surprised. A lot of docs that are out there that are successful have coaches.
Yep.
It just is what it is. And even though we're coaches, again, like I said at the beginning of our conversation today, I'm not talking coaching. What I'm doing is telling you what successful people do. And we've said this many times. Dr. Perusich is famous for talking about how many coaches that Michael Jordan had.
Yeah.
And Tiger Woods. Tiger
Yeah.
Woods had multiple coaches as well. The greatest golfer, and you can argue with me about whether Michael was the greatest basketball player ever. You're going to lose because he was. I know some people like LeBron. Love you, LeBron. You're a great basketball player, but you're not Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, not only did he have that mentality, but he had the coaching behind it. He had multiple coaches and he listened to those coaches.
Yeah.
And he did what they told him to do and he believed in it. That's what we've done from a success standpoint. Number one was coaching. The second thing that we've done is we've looked outside of chiropractic, and Dr. Perush, you're really good at this part of it, looking outside of chiropractic at what makes humans successful, not
Yep.
just chiropractors. What makes humans successful, not just business people, but humans.
Yep. And I'm going to add one more thing to that list because those first two things are spot on. But the third thing is you have to be willing to put in the work.
Oh
And
my.
you got to be willing to roll up the sleeves and go the extra mile and put in the work and put in the effort and put in the time. And if you do those things, then you're sure to be successful. Now, is it a promise of success? No, there's a lot of things you have to learn outside of being a doctor. You have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to engage people. You have to learn how to have authority. There's so many different levels to it. But this is why coaching is so important, because this is the kind of stuff you can't do on your own. You may have a realization to a lot of these things, but you can't organize it and learn it in a manner on your own that allows you the time to still practice too. So this is one of the great reasons why coaching works. And Troy, I know you said this is a platform for a sales job, and I'm not trying to do that, but if you don't have a coach, find one that works for you. Coaching, like chiropractic, it's a relationship-based process. Find somebody that floats your boat and can help you really become successful.
It's so easy. And this is from a success standpoint. They get the 30,000-foot overview. They're not tangled up in the weeds like you are. You're
Right.
tangled in the weeds every day. And you think what you're doing is unique to everyone else. A coach is going to look at you and go, I've got 100 other people just like you. And
Yep.
here's how we backtracked out of this jungle that you're in right now. We did it one step at a time. One day we may be talking about patient communication. Another day we may be talking about how do you reduce your overhead expenses. Another day we may be talking about effective strategies for marketing that don't make you look cheap. This is not a race to the bottom, right? We talk about these different things, but we do it one step at a time. Nobody gets in the middle of the Amazon jungle and just jumps straight up in the air and leaps out of the jungle. You got to backtrack out one step at a time. And quite frankly, the second you leave school, you're in the middle of the Amazon jungle. Some people go deeper and get
Yep.
themselves in a real bind. Some people flirt with the edges of it, and it's really easy to backtrack out of it. Or maybe they have a little business experience. And unfortunately, I'm going to use a word that you guys don't like, sales experience.
Ooh.
I don't care what kind of doctor you are, you're in sales.
Oh, we got
Because
to
when you explain a procedure that you're going to do with a patient and get their affirmation that they want to do, that's called sales.
Yep.
And there are effective ways to do it, and there are really ineffective ways. And I know here's another word people don't like, close.
Oh,
Can you close on something? If you can be so over the top, over descriptive, over pushy, that's not a word, over pushy. You can be very pushy. And you can actually talk someone out of it. You literally talk so much and for so long that you talk a patient out of it.
Yep.
I can tell you that most of my conversations with patients are pretty short and to the point because one, I have confidence that they're going to follow my recommendations. So that goes back to another step of getting out of the jungle, and that is authority.
Yep.
Doctor authority. That's not ingrained in you when you come out of school. It's taught or it's learned as you go along. And so as we go through those steps, I have to have the authority to begin with and realize that a patient's going to follow my recommendations. Number two, I offer my recommendations. And number three, they agree to those recommendations. And so that's another step of getting out of the jungle is people following through when you do offer something to them called sales and closing. As
Yep.
much as you don't like it, we're all doing it. And I'll tell you what, when I go to my functional medicine doctor and she tells me, hey, here's what I want you to do, she's selling me a product. And that product may cost $1,500. I know the last time I did, it was.
Yeah.
Between labs and everything that I did, it was $1,500. And she sold me that product and she did it in less than a minute. Now, did she talk to me for longer than that? Yeah, we were talking about a few other things, but when it came to the sale of the product, it was short and to the point. This is what we need to do. You ready to get started, Troy? Absolutely, I am. And it doesn't, at that point, money wasn't really the object. Now, if I were stone cold broke, didn't have a job, didn't have a car, and walked over to her office that day, I might have had to think about it twice. We do have some patients like that sometimes. We all do.
Sometimes, sure.
The majority of your patients, and I'll tell you a little story about that. A majority of your patients have money to proceed with healthcare, and you don't even know it. And here's what I mean by that. So I, as a chiropractor, I'm offering care to patients. They're doing it. We're cruising along. We're doing our thing. I come up with a new service in my office. That new service has gone over like hotcakes. People immediately jumped on it. There were people that I did not know if they had money to pay for their next chiropractic appointment that dropped $400 and $500 without batting an eye that day for that service.
Yep.
Guess what? I underestimated my patients by thinking, and we all do this, that maybe they didn't have enough money to pay for more chiropractic. And
Yep.
you know what? They proved me complete. And this isn't once. This has been over the last 6 or 7 months. I've been proved wrong so many times now. And the conversation again is 30 seconds long. It's no longer than it was on the other one. Hey, here's what we have to offer. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get signed up for that. Boom.
And there's
It's
a psychological diagnosis for thinking that your patients don't have money. It's
what's
called
that called?
poverty complex.
Oh my. I'm
Quit
so scared of that.
quit making financial decisions for your patients. Now, I have to admit, I learned that the hard way. I think my first year in practice, probably my first couple of months, this patient told me that they couldn't afford care. And then I watched him drive off in a brand new Cadillac. I'm like, oh.
Mhm.
And then I found out where they live, and they lived on the golf course. I'm like, okay, I fell for that one. Don't fall
Yeah.
for that. Here's the strategy. And I'm going to use your analogy, Troy. If you want to find your way through the Amazon forest, the best way is to have an experienced guide. And that's what
Mhm.
coaching is. And I'm going to go out on a limb because we're talking about trees, that a good portion of the doctors that are very successful in this profession have coaches. And
And I'm going to add into not only just a coach, but one that is well-rounded in all aspects of business. This isn't about new patients in PVA. That's not what we're coaching
it's
you on.
not about gimmicks.
And it's not about gimmicks. And we very infrequently sit around and grind on you about new patients in PVA. No, we'll look at your stats. Your stats and your trends do tell us what's going on in your practice, but we're more about the well-rounded experience. And I say that because I see a lot of gimmicky stuff. It comes across my Facebook just like it does you guys. If you look at any kind of coaching at all, next thing you know, your Facebook feed is flooded with not only ads for chiropractors, but I get ones for PTs too. And guess what?
true.
You know what they're talking about? Reactivation calls. They're talking about new patients. They're talking about all that stuff. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot more to it because quite frankly, I can get all the new patients on the planet. I can run a special, and some of you might be guilty of this. So I don't want to make it sound any worse than it already is. But some of you got 45 new patients last month.
Mhm.
And they paid $2.50 a piece to come in. They got an exam, they got x-rays, they got an adjustment. They might have gotten a massage. Maybe it was only a chair massage, but they got a massage. And then they got told they needed a package of 24 visits. Now, does that sound like the classic bait and switch to you?
Does to me.
Does to me too. I don't like it. I don't think that's how you should market. So if you are in the market to get as many new patients in the door, you get somebody that messages you and says, hey, how would you like 30 new patients? I get that every day, every single day. Would you like 30 new patients this month? No, thank you. I want to do it organically. And the way that you do it organically is different. And I think that's really the caveat. And this is probably the secret sauce that really successful doctors have is we don't cheapen ourselves.
Nope. Never.
We market our patients in a way that we provide a service that they need or want, just like I've done over the last 7 months. They need or want. We see that because we're looking at the market trends, right?
Yep.
I'm not looking at what was done 30 years ago. I'm
Right.
not gonna run an ad for a $1.99 new patient special.
No,
Those
and
patients aren't going to stay.
why, and this is probably a topic for another podcast, but why would you want to do that? Why would you want to give away all your service, give away $500 worth of services to 45 patients who collectively paid you around $100 in your
Mhm.
scenario?
In my scenario, yeah.
And yet you're giving away $500 worth of services for 45 patients. How do you ever make that back up doing that? Plus,
You're
those
in
40
hopes that 2 people are going to follow through with care.
Yeah. Plus those 45 patients cost you about 45 hours worth of your time. Well, let's see. I've got my calculator here. We always say you should be making around $500 an hour in your practice. What did I say?
45 hours.
45 hours. So you gave up $22,500 worth of your time by doing that. It makes no sense as a business model to do that to yourself, only to churn people into your practice that are 90% are going to drop out, and the other 10% that's left, they're going to think that it's $250 every time they come in.
And no wonder you don't have time to get out in your community because you're too busy servicing people for $2 as a new patient.
And that's a choice to bomb out.
It is. It's really so what successful chiropractors do is they look at trends, they value those services where they should be, and they allow the market to dictate.
Yep.
And when the market dictates and you hit on something that patients see success with, they're going to buy it.
Yep.
They're going to pay for that service, and they're not afraid to pull out their checkbooks and do that. Not everything in life has to be free or $2 to get people in the door. But that's what some of you've seen. And that's unfortunately what we see from the middle and the bottom branch.
Yep.
Is you looked at what somebody else did, and then it's a race to the bottom. Oh, they charged $10 for their first day. I'm going to charge $5. Oh, I'm going to charge $2. How about we just do it for free? How about you donate a canned good? Has that been done in the past? And have I done something similar to that 25, 30 years ago? I did. I
Yep.
did. And you know what? I regret that was not a decision that was good for other chiropractors all over the United States, not just in my area.
Yep.
It was a poor decision all across the board because I cheapened chiropractic. We've run the chiropractic adjustment into the ground.
Yep.
It should be valued at way more than it is. And instead, we're all in a race to the bottom. So even those of us that are uber successful, ultra successful in practice, still look at all those metrics, and we know that our adjustment's undervalued. There's no way some of us can. Now, you might be in a really affluent area where you're a little bit higher than I am. You may be in a poor area where you're a little lower than I am, but we're not getting paid for the chiropractic adjustment what we should.
Correct.
Sad, but it's true. But as an entrepreneur looking at this, what I'm going to do is overcome that. I can sit and complain about that all day. What I'm going to do is add other value added services. Now my patient is coming in, they're getting more value, they're getting better care, they're getting healthier, but they're also spending more in my practice to do it.
And we're also not going to look at the value of a new patient. We're going to look at the lifetime value of a retained patient.
Yep.
And that's really the crux of building a practice. And I think we opened a can of worms for a couple of tag on podcasts here.
Oh yeah,
Troy, for sure. Because these are topics that you and I can run with all day long, because we see doctors out there making the choice to be mediocre or worse. And you don't need to do that. And so if you're struggling a little bit, you don't know what to do, you don't know where to turn to, go check us out, katzconsultants.com, Katz with a K. See all the great things that we're doing to help doctors get up to that top branch of the tree of success. So feel free to take a peek. We've got a bunch of free downloads on the website as well. So check it all out. And most of all, thank you for tuning in every week to the KC CHIROpulse Podcast. We love doing this because we're chiropractors too. Chiropractic has been phenomenal for us. We want you out there to have the same experience. So be sure to like and subscribe. And Troy, anything to add?
No, I think that really in a nutshell is what we were talking about, because we always get together before these podcasts, and sometimes we have a topic that's already ready to go in the chute, and then we make a little right turn after about 5 minutes of us talking to each other, because there are things that happen or we see on a regular basis. This is something we see often. Man, we want you to be successful.
Yeah.
We want you to be wildly successful. And to do that, sometimes you just can't do it on your own. I suppose there may be somebody out there in the rare air that's figured it out on their own, but it's pretty infrequent that you're able to cover every one of those bases. And so from my standpoint, coaching is no different than when I was taking boards, and I used Irene Gold. You guys may use something different, but I used Irene Gold for a board review. You know why? Insurance policy. I want to be successful.
It was your guide through the Amazon forest.
It cost me a little bit, but guess what? I got through boards the first time. Would I have done it on my own? I would have probably sat there and ground it out. I would have figured out how to get through it.
Sure.
But did I want to? No. So that's why we're here for you. And that's why we're talking about the successful practices.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in with us. We will see you next time.
See ya.